Hello, everyone. Welcome to this workshop. Thank you so much for joining us to this public staff workshop. My name is Geet Abdul Sattar, and I'm a water resource control engineer with the Waste Discharge Requirements Unit and part of the team working on the proposed statewide on-site wastewater treatment system policy renewal, also known as OWTS policy renewal. The staff workshop today is to give an overview of the proposed amendments for the OWTS policy and to discuss the renewal process for the OWTS policy and the conditional waiver. Next slide, please. At the end of this workshop, we will have a Q&A session to welcome your questions regarding the renewal process and the proposed changes. The Q&A session will be after the presentation and it will not be recorded. To participate in our Q&A session, please raise your hand and we will call on you. We will also be monitoring the chat, so please feel free to write your questions there anytime throughout the presentation. Please note that the chat to mute and unmute features and the raise hand option can be accessed in the Zoom toolbar below the screen, at the bottom of the screen. Everyone that's entering the Zoom meeting is muted upon entry. Please stay muted during the presentation and when not speaking. During our Q&A session, you will have an opportunity to unmute yourself to ask your question when you're called on. Please save any verbal questions until after the presentation. Please note our email on the screen. For any technical assistance throughout this workshop, please contact us at dwq-wdr@waterboards.ca.gov with the subject line Tech Help OWTS Workshop, so we can assist you and get to you as soon as possible. We will also write that email address in the chat for reference. Next slide, please. The public notice for the OWTS policy was released on August 17th, and the proposed OWTS policy amendments and staff report were released on September 16th for public review and a public comment period from September 16th to November 1st, 2022. Written public comments are due by 12 p.m. on November 1st, 2022, and oral comments can be provided to the State Water Board at the public hearing on October 18th of 2022. Please note that feedback provided today will not be considered part of the State Board's official public records. Public comments should be submitted to the clerk before the close of the public comment period by 12 p.m. on November 1st. More information on how to submit public comments can be found on the OWTS public notice, which will also be inserted in the chat for reference. I will now hand it over to our lead speaker for the presentation, Stephanie Torres. Stephanie, please take it away on the next slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Geet. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for your time this evening, and hope everyone has arrived safely to the meeting. My name is Stephanie Torres, and I am the engineering geologist with the Waste Discharge Requirements Unit in the Division of Water Quality, working as a lead staff on this water quality. Oh, I apologize. Got ahead of myself there. But for the water quality policy for the on-site design, operation, and maintenance for the on-site wastewater treatment systems and its conditional waiver renewal. I just wanted to quickly reiterate for this recording that live captions are on right now, but the captions for some of our acronyms may not transpose correctly, so just be mindful of that when reviewing this recording. So this evening, this presentation will provide some context and background on the OWTS policy, project timeline, and an overview of the policy and its conditional waiver, as well as the scope of this renewal project, our outreach efforts, and then the next steps for this project renewal. The technical presentation, again, will be followed by that Q&A session. And for people's reference, the on-site wastewater treatment system policy has a very long title, so we will be referring to it as the OWTS policy, or renewal just throughout this presentation. So the OWTS policy is a policy with a conditional waiver that waives the need for waste discharge requirements, reports of waste discharge, and associated fees for discharges that meet the policy requirement for the siting, design, operation, and maintenance of these on-site wastewater treatment systems, which primarily treat domestic wastewater as it's outlined by the policy. The OWTS policy and proposed revisions support the agency goals and efforts to ensure all of Californians access to adequate sanitation by these three items: continuing the safe statewide sanitation requirements for over 1.2 million systems throughout all of California. We have also been conducting our tribal consultation for the CEQA updates associated with this renewal. The implementation, or we will also be reviewing and providing key clarifications for issues that have risen over 10 years of implementation through narrow policy revisions. And I'll explain a little further in this presentation about the conditional waiver and its expiration. And our goal is to ensure that this waiver coverage doesn't lapse for the over 1.2 million systems in California, which can cause regulatory uncertainty for system owners. So a brief history of this OWTS policy. In 2000, this is going back a ways. In 2000, there was an assembly bill that came out, AB 885, where it was legislation requiring regulation of septic and OWTS systems statewide. There was some time between 2000 and 2012 where state board staff, along with regional board staff, local agencies, and even the public was highly involved in developing what resulted in the OWTS policy and its substitute environmental document. Those were adopted in 2012. The conditional waiver that's associated with the OWTS policy has an expiration, and it's required by water code to be renewed every 5 years. So after its adoption in 2012, you're seeing here on the slide the effective date of this policy, which was May 2013. And so 5 years later, every 5 years, the waiver must be renewed within that policy. So the first renewal was in 2018, and we are now upcoming to the 2023 OWTS policy renewal. And also for recording that, again, the OWTS is standing for the on-site wastewater treatment systems. And when we say policy renewal, it means the entire policy and its conditional waiver. So this is just a quick snapshot of some system estimates in California. In 2000, it was estimated that 10% of Californians were on septic, with these broad estimates being about, it would bring these estimates up to about 1.4 million septic systems that could be following under this policy, potentially impacting approximately 390,000 people. So for the OWTS policy, it's what is the OWTS policy? Or I apologize, what does this policy apply to? Who does it apply to, and which system? The OWTS policy defines OWTS systems as individual disposal systems, community collection and disposal systems, and alternative collection and disposal systems that use subsurface disposal. The things that are listed on the slide here are features that would qualify you or would qualify a system for coverage under this policy, which include domestic wastewater discharges that are less than 10,000 gallons per day, any incidental domestic RV wastewater, and any incidental commercial food wastewater. And again, those are strictly defined within the policy itself. This policy does not cover a number of systems, but just a few to list are any systems with discharge flows that are over that 10,000 gallon per day limit, any sewer systems and connections, industrial wastewater discharges, or high strength wastewater as defined or outlined in the OWTS policy are not covered by this. It's just incidental high strength wastewater, which again is strictly defined in the policy. To review the OWTS policy and its structure, again, the OWTS policy was based on Water Code. Its foundation is in Water Code and Water Code Authority. The policy has a tiered framework and conditional waiver of waste discharge requirements, which allows for local oversight and permitting of the majority of septic systems statewide. This is within the meaning of domestic waste. And just highlighting here, what you're seeing is the conditional waiver is broken into these components. You fall under the conditional waiver by meeting these things of the policy. And just to highlight again the structure of this policy and the policy document specifically, it's divided with the preamble, definitions, responsibilities, and duties in the beginning. The main chunk of it is the 5 regulatory tiers, which gives explicit requirements for existing, new and replacement, and for some tiers, all of those systems. The conditional waiver framework and financial assistance section, as well as our 3 main attachments, which has a timeline, a policy implementation timeline, listing of OWTS impaired water bodies from nitrogen and pathogens, as well as a 3rd attachment, which shows how the regional water boards deal with overlapping jurisdictions. And we will go into further detail on the regulatory tiers, as well as the renewal updates, which we will be discussing further in this presentation, which do circulate a lot around attachment 2. So to break down the regulatory tiers a little further, we have, again, those 5 tiers from 0 to 4, and the Tier 0 and Tier 3 apply to existing as well as new and replacement OWTS. There are outlines for all systems in those 2 tiers, Tier 0 and Tier 3. Tier 0 addresses existing systems, maintaining operation and maintenance standards, and Tier 3 addresses systems that are near impaired water body areas. The remaining tiers, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 4, mainly address new and replacement OWTS, with Tier 1 being a low risk approach for new replacement systems. Tier 2 is our main focus for this policy, allowing the local agencies oversight of these systems through local agency management programs, which are agreements between the regional boards and the local agencies, meeting the needs of this requirements of this policy. And Tier 4, which addresses the systems that require any repairs or any follow-up actions. So that's a breakdown of the policy and its structure. We're going to dive into the meat of the purpose of this staff workshop, which is helping support for this public comment period. These are a list of the proposed changes or updates and revisions that we are making to the policy, as well as the update to our CEQA, which is just some additional information in our staff report. So again, the staff report and the policy will be the things to provide comment on. The breakdown of these revisions are the accessory dwelling units may be covered if otherwise compliant with policy requirements. We want to encourage that these can be covered under a LAMP. We are not providing any prescriptive requirements for these systems. These systems should fall under, again, that they are discharging domestic waste to a fixed 5 years beginning in 2018, just to have a regularly recurring set of data every 5 years. Just to support local agencies as well as regional boards in order to address known areas that weren't able to be addressed before. So it's we just want to make it more explicit that these areas such as groundwater vulnerable areas can be addressed under this policy, and that's not a change, it's simply a clarification. The other policy revisions that have occurred are the addition of clarifying policy language for Tier 3 impaired areas, as well as a list of updated impaired surface water bodies that are developing total maximum daily loads in order to address those pathogen and nitrogen impacts from OWTS systems. Just for awareness, outreach has been something has been on the forefront of our minds for this project. We have gotten so much participation and feedback from staff and from tribal consultation, and we're hoping that this opportunity for the public to share their thoughts and hopefully we can use some of that feedback as well in the direction of this project. However, again, I do want to emphasize that for any on record official comments that you'd like to submit to see changes in this in these policy updates, those again will have to be on an official record, but we hope that this is an opportunity or a platform to get that ball rolling. I also want to share just where we're at in the timeline of this project. We are in the middle of, again, our public comment period, which started September 16th and is going on until November 1st. The staff workshop, which is what we're doing, is today, and it's right in the middle of that comment period. So again, we hope that during the Q&A session later, we'll be able to clarify any questions you may have regarding those updates. The hearing for public comment, which will be in front of the board, will be on October 18th. And in order to participate in that, that is outlined in our notice. Please feel free to go into the chat and access the notice to find out how to register. If you'd like to provide an oral comment at that time, we definitely welcome it. To let you guys know, the public comment, we will be reviewing public comments and providing responses, as well as any policy revisions that are necessary to that during this upcoming winter. And then we have our proposed adoption meeting in April of 2023. And again, that date is just to ensure that there's no lapse in coverage for the upcoming waiver expiration.